So, Phillip Nazak is an experienced educator and leader with more than 10 years in education. Philip has over 20 years in the world of business and together helps to build relationships with educators to create and foster and promote instructional leadership and drive substantial change. Disclaimer: any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. Welcome to the show today, Philip. Glad to have you on.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, amazing. So, I first of all would love to touch on the company name you've got, the Growth Culture Solutions, and yeah, really where that name came from.
It's a combination of things. In education, we're talking about culture these days, and building strong cultures for strong learning communities. And I like the idea of having growth behind it, that we're going to grow that culture. And then the partnership is the solutions. So we're going to grow culture and we're going to come up with viable solutions. So I just thought it was a kind of a nifty name, if you will, lack of a better word, but I think it encompasses what I'm trying to do. That, the big thing is culture. We're going to grow it and then we're going to have solutions.
I love that solutions and like that really focus on people. So yeah, I know you help a lot of educators. What kind of got you into helping educators and educating people?
Well, again, my background is for the last 10 years, I was a teacher. I was in the classroom. And my last 2 years, I was a leader. And as we know in the news, education is in such a turmoil right now. Uh, you know, they're saying that children aren't learning effectively, that meaningful education is not happening, teachers are leaving. And I got to looking at why teachers are leaving, basically. And it kind of awakened something in me. And it starts back with the teacher program that new teachers go through universities. And we offer they're wonderful programs, but in my opinion, they're lacking something. And those new teachers, particularly between years 1 and 3, that's where we're finding a lot of turnover. And I started to think, well, why is that? So I went back and looked at my own training. It was wonderful. I got, pedagogical, training. I got course training. I got classroom management, all the basic things that would make you successful in the classroom. But there's a hidden curriculum. They don't talk about how to deal with behavior. They don't address how to do with administrative things that teachers also have to do, whether that's making parent phone calls, dealing with, 504s and educational education plans, having staff meetings, grade level meetings, all those other things in addition to being in the classroom teaching. And I feel that that are coming out brand new aren't given the proper uh, knowledge and experience in dealing with that once they get their own classroom. So I wrote this book, Thriving to Surviving, to address that. And that's how I came to working with school leaders and even brand new teachers to help turn around teachers from leaving the profession, staying in this profession, and continue to grow. And it starts with the type of culture that's in the classroom and in the building. So I'm working with both leaders and teachers to try to see if we can turn that around and really start to educate our children the way, our school leaders, our communities, and even our parents are looking for. So that's kind of where I came from.
Oh wow! And what is you said kind of a turnover? There's a lot of turnover, or was a lot of turnover from years 1 to 3 for like sort of new teachers. What is the kind of like turnover you finding?
Well, I know, it varies from district, but I know, where I live right now, the turnover is like 14%. which, we have a school district that has 147 schools and, quite a few thousands in teachers. 14% is quite a lot.
Wow.
And, it's hard to, attract those teachers. And I can remember back, a couple of years ago, the school district was looking for like over 780 teachers. And by the time the school started, they only hired like 200. So we were starting the school year off in a deficit. We needed to fill 500 positions. And so, that directly impacts uh, learning in the classroom because we don't have qualified teachers in that classroom. We might have a substitute, or we might have, somebody else coming in who's not a certified trainer through the state. So, it kind of puts, learning at a disadvantage. And that was quite alarming. And 14% is a number that's unacceptable. And so we need to reduce that. And there's a lot of different factors to why teachers are leaving. Some of it's because of, lack of pay. You know, uh, Typically, that's one of the things that teachers are complaining about, rightfully so, that we not paid what we deserved. But that's out of our control. That has something to do with each state, legislature and government. But the things that we can control is what we're actually being expected to do in the classroom and what the culture is and what extra things that we are expected to do in addition to what our primary goal is. And what's that? Teaching the kids at the end of the day, right? Giving them a learning experience. And so teachers are getting burned out. They're feeling that their voices are not being heard by administrators when they come with their concerns. And they're just not being supported. In addition, with the lack of funding and pay, they're saying, I can go to another sector and make just as much and probably be just as happy. So they're making hard choices and they're leaving for a lot of different reasons. And my goal is if we could take those things that we can control out of that equation, then we can continue to change our educational system and keep our teachers in our classrooms where they want to be. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Got you. Wow. Okay. So how are you sort of like working with teachers at the moment? Is it kind of like groups, sort of like communities?
Yeah, it's it's kind of whatever the school district wants. Usually it's a small little cohort of brand new teachers. It could be up to, 10 to 15 teachers. I come in and I do a professional development workshop with them over a couple days with them if that's what they choose, or they can subscribe to a course that I have that the teachers can take at their leisure over, online. And so it just depends on what the school leader needs and wants at that time. Most of the time, it'll be an in-person, professional development workshop. That way, it's more intimate. I can answer questions right there, provide examples, and just have a great conversation. And the personal is more effective than the online. But again, busy schedules, the districts might want that online option. So that's available as well.
Oh, okay. So a good couple of well, good couple of ways at least then to sort of like really support them.
Yes.
And is it you kind of for teachers who go through a really rough time and maybe like they're having challenges with a certain school or like pupils, do you kind of teach stuff around maintaining like the confidence and their ability to do the job?
Yeah, I do. I work with them to keep their confidence just by talking with them, being a mentor, being a former teacher. I try to give them skills that they could use within their each day to, help them deal with whatever's coming up. And I think it's mostly positive reinforcement, enforcement. We talk about in education a lot of times, the why. Why did you become a teacher? And most teachers will tell you that it's not so much the money, it's the love of the children, right? What we can do for the children. And if you can constantly remind yourself of your why you became a teacher, that kind of keeps you rejuvenated of what you're doing and that you can be successful and that you can still move forward. So yeah, I give them, some coping skills, basic centered around their why. Why'd you become a teacher?
Got it. And then yes, focusing on that why for them a lot more.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, for me, when I went to the classroom, I was really excited. It's like, wow, I got my classroom. I'm a teacher now. I get to, impact my wisdom and change some lives. And, I was really excited and things were going great. But then, as a teacher, you start to really get into the school culture and some of those other hidden curriculums that teachers need to do that we're really not subjected to in our training. You start to go, oh, I don't know if I can do this. You start to have self-doubt. You start to question yourself, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I wasn't prepared for this. And it's just natural, human nature to start to doubt yourself. And that's where, focusing in on, hey, well, why did you become a teacher? Spark them again. And, just little things like that can help them weather through what they're experiencing and going through, the workshop or the course gives them additional building skills and knowledge to build on top of that to keep that confidence going and keep them moving forward to become, a great seasoned teacher that we're looking for.
Got it. And with like parent support and involvement, is that anything you teach around as well?
Yeah, that's a tough thing. There are parents that, are really great, that are constantly involved. They're contacting you. My thing suggest would be that with parents getting involved, is just you need to set some time aside once a week and just email parents. And when I mean email them the good things, right? Give them the positive things that are going on with that child and just reach out and say, hey, Johnny had a great day today. Just thought I'd let you know. If there's anything you more you need from me, let me know. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. Looking forward to hearing from you. Also, too, if there's school events coming, just dropping an email or a phone number or a phone call to that parent and letting them know. If they come, great. If they don't, but at least you're trying to get them involved. And that way, I think parents really appreciate the teacher taking the time, dropping a short email or phone call, and that's what they're looking for. So I encourage my teachers to do that.
I love it. Getting the parent involvement where possible. Um, yeah. What about maybe challenging students? Because I know a lot of teachers come across that.
Yeah, there's students are different today than when way back when I was in school, and I think with students and with parents, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to build a relationship with that student. They're a person, right? They're going to have bad days, they're going to have good days, just like I am as a teacher. And we don't know their backstory, so much of what they're coming from. But I think if we show them respect and interest in their lives as much as they're willing to give to us, we can build that relationship. So when the student maybe is misbehaving, you can have that conversation with them, and they're knowing that you're coming from a place of trust, and knowing that you care about them, that they're like, oh yeah, you're right, Mr. Nazak. I probably shouldn't have done that. And refocus themselves. And then the relationship comes with them being challenged in class, because then once you get to know them and kind of what their likes, dislikes are and seeing what they do, you can bring them in and maybe be a helper, helping to teach a small group. That's getting them engaged. It's changing their disengagement to engagement. So they're also learning, but they're also being involved and being participative. And so I think it's just building that relationship.
Lots of relationship building sounds like is a
It
focus.
really is right from, the student, right from the parents, and even right through, your school administrators, the assistant principals, principals, and even fellow teachers. Yeah, so education is about building relationships, I feel. And if you can do that successfully, then you can have a very successful career, as long as you want in education.
Curious question. Do you think like a lot of times people can be a real expert at like their subject, like maybe it's maths, maybe it's English, maybe they teach a variety, I don't know, but like do you think like anyone in teaching can sort of learn those personal skills like when you work with them?
Yeah, I think they do, and I think they can. Yeah, that most definitely. Um, I think it goes back to learning from within yourself. How do you want to be treated as a person? And knowing that what you expect how to be treated is, something that you need to take into consideration when you're dealing with, a student. They're a person. Granted, they don't have as much experience as you do, and the age is different, but they're still looking for respect as well, and looking to, welcome that comfort zone, and so they could talk to you and build that relationship. So I think anybody can learn, those skills to build those relationships and have those things. Just think they need to be asked the right questions to reflect on their own, um, you know, introspective how they want to be treated as a person.
Got you. Yeah, no, I was just curious because sometimes in like a teaching profession, you might remember like the teachers are really good at their subject, very knowledgeable, and then there'd be like that teacher that like everybody loves and is fun, but you know, they may have some or more a lot more knowledge about the subject. But yeah, I was just like yeah, curious on your thoughts, but it's coming back to how we want to be treated as human beings, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean that's, again, that's just my perspective. I mean, I do know teachers that are really, really good and really knowledgeable about their content. But as far as, the building the relationships, they do just the basic minimum, which is fine. It works for them. But I think each person has to develop what's going to work for them, and how far they want to build that relationship or how they want to interact with parents and stuff. So, you know, um, I think it's all individual. I think as somebody who's trying to develop teachers, knowing that, and working with them and helping them develop whatever's good for them within their comfort zone a little bit, then that's what needs to be done for them to be successful.
I love it. With like students, coming back to students again, but what do you think is some of the best ways an educator can inspire their students?
A good question. Again, everything I think that we're going to talk about goes back to that relationship, getting to know them, what they aspire to be, depending on, what grade level you're teaching. But I think, and just being observant, what are they doing in class? Are they really good at analyzing? Are they really good at, speaking? Are they really good at organizing? And taking that and just kind of, helping them develop that in your own way in your own classroom and talking to them, say, hey, you're really good at organizing, or hey, you're really good at math. You ever think about going into, being a CPA or an accountant or, bookkeeping or something like that, and get them thinking and talking about it. And it's just, again, it's relationships. And students really appreciate that because, again, we don't know all their backstory and where they're coming from. And a lot of times, since we have them a good 8 hours a day, 5 days a week,
Mm,
for a good portion of the year, we spend a lot of time with our students. And, we look forward to them as our students, to watching them grow and become whatever they're going to become. But in helping them to do that, we need to have that relationship. And then we can start to craft our game plan, if you will, to help them to continue to develop.
mm. So not so. What I'm hearing is more about understanding them and helping guide their own greatness rather than kind of being instructing them on what to do.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, life is in and of itself is a learning experience, and it's great to have all these skills. And I think, today, I think one of the big things that as teachers and educators, students want to know, the why. Why am I learning this?
Mm,
How is it going to benefit me? I mean, I taught social studies and, history. And either, in my opinion, either you like history or you don't. And, a lot of times I heard, well, why do I have to learn about a battle that happened 200 years ago? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah,
very
yeah,
valid. But I think if you as a teacher can kind of answer that why and talk to them and say, well, why do you think it's important that we learn about who George Washington was? Or why is it important that we learn what the U.S. Constitution is and how we got here? And what does it do for you as a human being and as a citizen? And then they start to think and they start to ask questions. And then they still might not like history, but now they're going to be more engaged in participating because they're going to start to have questions uh, about what you're learning. And I think if we as teachers give them that answer to that why, you know, because I had that same question. I mean, I was like in high school, I was like, why am I learning geometry? I'm not going on to college, all I need to know is the basic math, right? Balance my checkbook, add, subtract, divide. I don't need geometry. I don't need trigonometry. I never, no one could explain to me why I needed that. But I think if my teachers would have explained that to me, I would have been more engaged. I would have had better grades, and understood why I'm taking those courses. So I take that into the classroom and into my business of trying to answer some of those things that parents have and students have. Why do I got to learn history? It's boring to me. Or, why am I learning, why do I have to learn, cursive writing in English class when everything is digital,
yeah.
right? Because there's going to be times where you're going to have to sign a document where you need to have penmanship. It needs to be a regular signature. It can't be a digital one. There's going to be certain things like that. And I think if we take the time as educators and explain it, that takes some of that mystery away, that takes some of that disengagement away, and it makes the teacher's job a little more easier to communicate and get those students engaged.
Mm, I've got it. Yeah, understanding that why, not just you've got to. All right, I told you.
Yeah, because I'm the teacher. My mom always said when we were growing up, she'd say, "Well, do this," and as a teenager, as a child, I was always like, "Well, why?" Well, my mom's famous response was, because I'm your mother and I told you to. Oh, okay. So you did it, and I think in education, you're the adult in the classroom, and it's so easy to say, well, because I'm the teacher, that's my job. I'm here to teach you, so just do it. And I think in my perspective, that's the wrong approach. They're asking a valid question. And I think we should give them a valid answer as to why they might not like the answer anyway, but they're going to appreciate you for giving them an answer as to why they're learning history or why they're learning math or whatever it may be.
Mm, I've got you. And do you, final one, I know it sort of goes back to the relationship building, but do you kind of help educators understand maybe some individual differences between kids or students? Because I know some may struggle to learn in a certain way. There's all these different things. Is that something you kind of touch on?
Yeah, you do. As a teacher, you're wearing a lot of different hats.
Mm,
And like I said, once, we're talking about relationships, but I think once you observe what that student is, because some students are very visual. They can look at a PowerPoint, they can look at a movie, and they can grasp it. Some need, in a written form, they need guided notes or something they can write on. Some are just audio where, they just need some type of, dialogue or an audio clip. Some need all three. And I think once you uh, observe how that student conducts their learning, you can start to tailor your lessons around them. So basically, you're differentiating that lesson. It's just, I think in education today, it can't be a one-shot stop where, okay, here's my PowerPoint, here's your notes, this is what we're going to learn today. At the end of the day, we're going to take a test, and if you pass, you pass. If you don't, because students learn at different things. Some are really strong readers, some aren't, some need pictures. So it's adapting to how they best learn for themselves. They won't come out and tell you, but you know, um, by observing what they're doing and what they're not doing, you can identify how best to get them to learn. And I think that's really important. And I help teachers identify that and look for that so they can have those resources ready for those students in their classroom.
I've got yeah, yeah. Like I like your example of maybe there's a visual learner, maybe there's a more auditory like learner. I know for me, I have to do quite active learning. I have to create something to sort of really take something.
Yeah,
I struggle to sit there and just observe information, like absorb information. It's a bit difficult one for me. But when I go through something with science, like I really struggled with, it was like, all right, I'm gonna have to create something or like a presentation, or I'll go through these and answer that, and then I really like my grades were going from like a D to like an A. It's like finding what worked for me. So I know some have individual differences of their ways of learning. Um,
exactly. And that's the beauty of education. And if you can recognize that and build upon that, then you can have a very successful career and you can build long-term relationships with your students. I mean, I still have students that I taught, back in 2014, that still stay in touch with me and, drop me a line and tell me what they're doing and, that they're still thankful that I was their teacher. And even though they didn't like history, they still remember some of my lessons to help them get through life. And so, it's rewarding in and of itself. And because I took the time to recognize and learn how they learn and adapted to them, if you will, and help them to become better learners.
Well, yeah, love it. Philip, I'd love to know before we wrap up today, where is the best place for the listener to find you about your work or getting support from what you're offering? And is there maybe a final word or final point you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I am on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. I do have, uh, I do have, I'm trying to think. I got flustered here. But those are the spots where you can find me right now, basically through my Facebook page. You can always email me at grossculturesolutions@gmail.com. My website will be posted in the next couple days. I had to take that down and I'm reworking it. So I will be posting when that's up in the next couple days on my Facebook page, Instagram, LinkedIn. Um, yeah, just really excited to have the opportunity to talk with you today. Really excited to work with future teachers and school leaders and helping them, grow their culture, change their culture. And so, yeah, I'm really appreciative for sitting down and sharing my thoughts with you today.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that, for all the value you shared and all you're doing to help educators in the world. Yeah, there's a lot of work you're doing, and after this interview, you can also find Philip's links to his social medias and other links in the show notes below this episode. So, Philip, a massive thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, that concludes today's episode. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.